Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a moment in history that, honestly, completely shifted the spiritual and social landscape of the Indian subcontinent. We're going to be looking at a series of historical texts that detail the incredibly dramatic and literally transformative events of a historic Vaisakhi day at Anandpur Sahib. It's this profound story of ultimate sacrifice, of breaking ancient societal chains, and basically the birth of an entirely new community. Okay, let's set the scene here. You've got tens of thousands of people gathered at the call of their leader. They're expecting a traditional gathering, you know? But what happens next is, well, it's anything but traditional.
So, we begin with this incredibly tense, almost unimaginable moment in history. The historical texts tell us that Guru Gobind Singh steps forward before this massive congregation. But, and here's the catch, he doesn't step forward with a gentle blessing. No, he steps forward holding a shining, unsheathed sword. He looks out at the thousands gathered there and he makes a demand that sends an absolute shockwave through the crowd. He asks for a head. He literally asks for one of his followers to willingly step forward and offer their life right then and there. I mean, just imagine the utter silence, the sheer psychological weight of that moment. Why on earth would a spiritual leader make such a terrifying request? Let's actually trace the rapid succession of events that followed, moving from this sheer terror in the crowd to a miraculous revelation inside the tent. So after the first volunteer bravely steps forward, the guru takes him into a tent. A thud is heard. The guru emerges, but this time, the sword is dripping with blood, and he asks again and again. The source material really highlights the incredible bravery of figures like Bhai Dharmachand, who stand up despite the visible, blood-stained proof of what looks like absolutely certain death. 5 times he asks. 5 times a follower steps into that tent. And then, the climax of the whole timeline. The guru finally emerges, but the sword is now sheathed.
When the guru finally stepped out with his sword safely secured in his waistband, the scene changed instantly. The 5 men who had just offered their lives emerged with him completely unharmed. But the texts tell us they actually weren't the same men who walked into that tent. They experienced what the sources describe as a completely new birth. They had metaphorically died to their old selves, their fears, their hesitations, their past attachments, and they were absolutely reborn through that complete surrender.
Section 1. The 5 Beloved, a profound declaration of unity.
In a really powerful declaration, the guru elevated these 5 individuals, inextricably linking his own identity and spirit with theirs. He stated very clearly, "These 5 are my own form, my beloved." Think about that for a second when it comes to leadership. The leader is essentially dissolving the hierarchy between himself and his followers. He's saying that those who completely surrender to the cause carry his exact spirit and authority. I mean, imagine a modern leader just giving away their absolute authority to their followers like this. It's a real game changer.
Section 2. A community of equality, breaking the chains of the past. So to put this into perspective, in 17th century India, the old world was heavily defined by a strict high and low caste system. There was widespread hypocrisy, deep-rooted superstition, and a mindset of slavery and poverty. The newly born community, the Khalsa, was a radical departure from all of this. It completely replaced those divisions with absolute equality. It demanded a unified spiritual voice, and this fierce, unwavering dedication to fighting oppression and eradicating injustice from India. It was literally about cutting the chains of poverty and subjugation right out of the minds of the people. And the teachings of this new path unified some very diverse spiritual voices. The sources emphasize that in this new tradition, the voices of saints from entirely different backgrounds were all celebrated in one harmonious chorus. We're talking about folks like Kabir, who is a weaver, Namdev, a calico printer, and Farid, a Muslim mystic. It didn't matter where you came from or what your ancestral background was, it was all about a unified song praising the divine.
Section 3. The Path of Amrit, the strict commandments for a modern Sikh.
Now, let's look at how this historical event directly dictates practices today. The absolutely crucial point here is this concept hukam. When a Sikh takes Amrit today, which is the sacred initiation ceremony born on that historic day, they are given a hukam. And the source text makes this very explicit. You have to remember, these are not requests. They aren't pleas or just, helpful suggestions for living a good life. They are absolute commandments from the guru. It's a strict, unyielding commitment.
And here are the definitive first steps of that commitment, mirroring exactly what those first 5 men did. Step 1, dedicating your entire being, so your mind, your body, and your wealth, to the guru. Step 2, completely destroying and shedding all past social identities, caste, and lineage. And Step 3, accepting Guru Gobind Singh as your ultimate true father. This is a massive psychological reset. Think about how incredibly difficult it is to change just one tiny habit, right? Now imagine completely shedding your entire ancestral identity. You're no longer defined by your societal birth, but entirely by your spiritual rebirth.
Plus, the daily life of an Amritdhari Sikh is highly structured around devotion. The texts lay out that an individual must bow only to the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji and literally no one else. It requires a really rigorous daily discipline. You've got specific morning prayers like Nitnem in the early ambrosial hours, evening recitations like Sodar and Sohile Sahib, and the continual chanting of foundational mantras like the Mool Mantar and Waheguru Mantar. It's a life where every single dawn and dusk is anchored in discipline.
Ultimately, taking Amrit represents a complete spiritual rebirth. The source material notes that through this process, every Sikh gains the exact identity and the profound sense of pride that Guru Gobind Singh entrusted to his followers. The text actually mentions this beautiful analogy, that for a child, there can be no greater pride than looking in the mirror and seeing the reflection of their father. And that is exactly the spiritual inheritance passed down through this ceremony.
So as we reflect on this absolutely incredible transformation, going from a really tense gathering with a blood-stained sword all the way to a timeless, beautifully structured spiritual discipline, we are left with a pretty profound question. What you should take away from this explainer isn't just a history lesson. It's an understanding of what it actually takes to forge real equality. So ask yourself, if shedding your past, your status, and your very identity was the only way to truly fight oppression and build a community of absolute equals, would you have the courage to step forward? It's a question that echoes all the way from 17th century Anandpur Sahib right into our lives today. Thanks for exploring this fascinating historical journey with me.